You will see devices shrinking, devices on our body, hands-free, all payments seamless, all accumulated into one simple mode. Physical currency will cease to exist. Climate accords will be strengthened with EV, with less commuting, work from home, responsible behavior on behalf of corporates and the so-called 1% rich across the globe, and governments across, and not going down to the electorate to have votes and have industries that are polluting still go on. So I think technology will be a role player and a model player looking at the future of
Mr. Mahavir Pratap Sharma is a serial entrepreneur who is part of various business and social organizations. He is super passionate about angel investing, leadership, and mentoring. He is the chairman of TiE India Angels and also the co-founder of Rajasthan Angel Innovators Network, reins. He was recently elected as TiE Global Chairman, and which is the first time that has happened in its history. Indian domicile has taken reins of this high-profile global organization. Mr. Mahavir has also been a strong advocate of liberal policy environment for the startups in India and has been stressing on inclusion of non-profits, angel investors and VCs in policy-making process for the states and the country. He also plans to strengthen his TiE's competence in areas of youth entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship, and angel investing, along with spreading TiE's global network into new global geographies of Asia, Africa, EU, and Russia. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on Change I Am Possible, which is India's first digital podcast. So, congratulations on being elected as the TiE chairman for TiE Global 2020. So, this year has been super, super tough on everyone, right? So, what have been the challenges that you have faced in steering the organization forward?
Yeah. So initially, when this thing hit us, we thought a month, 2 months, few months. So everything got postponed. We thought offline is still it, and we figured, maybe TiE's main focus is mentoring, education, hand-holding, and networking. And we figured that will only happen at offline events, and so we postponed things initially. But before, over a month into this, we realized that this is not going anywhere. And that's when we decided to take a quick route to the online events. And not just as a global, but across all 61 chapters, everyone made events go online. Everyone created modules which everyone else could see across time zones. What audience they used to have of 40, 50 people from within their geography now suddenly became 300, 400, 500 from across the globe. And most importantly, with other social media, holding the recorded version, people could far outreach or outsee what content has been created from Silicon Valley to Sydney. And that actually turned around, and we realized the potential, because now what a TiE Global Summit used to have 3,000 to 4,000 people, now we're targeting 30,000 people. So the scenario has changed. We would not be able to reach out to speakers far off because, they wouldn't be able to travel. It's 7 days for 1 hour session. It doesn't make sense. But now we're at liberty to reach out to anywhere. So my only thing is that this has actually created new opportunities for knowledge, for networking, for sharing. And as you know, these channels of networking through video conferencing, small networking sessions, small rooms that can be created within a larger room, to matchmaking, to see profiling, to have one-on-one pitching. All these things have enabled us to sit in the comfort of our offices or homes and communicate and give more and far more and reach further. So I think this, what started off as a dampener, caught us off guard, but we quickly adjusted. And I think this has become from a challenge to an opportunity. And now we don't see this going, even when offline things do start, we do see hybrid, we do see virtual outreach, we do see having speakers sitting far away, but yet communicating with our audiences. So it's a win-win solution from TiE's point of view now. And I think that's something that has happened in 2020, a full cycle from a low to a full high. And I'm glad that we're where we are at, and everyone is taking advantage of that.
Lovely. Now, how awesome is that you've seen the brighter side of COVID? Yes, obviously there's been tremendous negatives of COVID. The entire economy is down, job loss is at all-time high. But yes, that's the brighter side. The environment is looking nice, and suddenly we figure out that there is so much one can do. This work from home has suddenly become like a huge thing. Microsoft has decided to give a from home option to 50 or 60% of the employees forever. Now, Facebook and Google have done the same thing, but they have done it for till 2021 July or something like that. But then Microsoft Home option from ever is a super thing. But somehow I see that it's not their generosity. It's not their kind heart. They have seen the data. The world is going towards data. They have seen the data that the workforce has become more productive. They save travel time. They save the stress is not there because the travel time means stress. So yes, obviously there are these really, really plus points. And you said about events. Yes, there's some really, really cool things which is happening in the event space. And somehow from my perspective or vantage point, I see that this is because of technology. All of the technology which is coming together, which was in a creeping mechanism, is suddenly got accelerated. Virtual reality. There have been events happening where people are actually holding events in virtual reality. Besides, obviously, digitally, there's this event in France called Laval Virtual. At the peak of pandemic, they saw 10,000 plus attendees using virtual reality and digital platforms to attend the event from all around the world. So yes, I think we're living in a fantastic time, and this technology, all of these creating technologies, could play a huge role in possibly creating like a better future for us. So since you have become the chairman of TiE Global, what have been the initiatives and changes that you have brought in the organization?
The changes, every organization has to be a very dynamic organization, and change is a continuous process. And I think what you refer to as Microsoft or Facebook's or Google's the world, they have realized it, and so have we. We realize that while mentoring and education are very important for startups, for incubations and acceleration programs, we also feel that investing at very early stage or idea stage is also very, very critical. And I think this year we've launched a great TiE India Angels program, which is investing at the early stage and idea stage. That has just happened. We also realized that once a child goes through our school program or college program, he or she shows signs of being an entrepreneur, is left alone to scout for himself or herself for a job market. So we've created a TiE alum organization, or part of whoever's been part of a TYE or a TiE University program will actually have the opportunity to continue to have a very, very low tariff or almost free membership at the local TiE chapter, and continue to stay engaged until they become entrepreneurs or until they pass out from the college undergrad courses. So that TiE alum is launched. Black Lives Matter in the US rattled off a big social turmoil for entrepreneurs and successful people like us to realize that unless we give back to the society, unless we handhold the underprivileged, and not just because of caste, color, or creed, but even for economic reasons, we would not be able to take the society further and at large. I mean, money is important, making money is important, but taking everyone along is all the more critical, because the micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs or enterprises will only survive if the money trickles down to them, and the common man, from a $1 t-shirt to a $100 branded shirt, everyone is happy in the entire chain of retail or e-commerce or whatnot. So we've created a TiE Access program where we're reaching out to underprivileged communities in the US, in India, across the globe, who've not had the means to have an education that many of us have been fortunate to have, and still want to be entrepreneurs. And mainline, it doesn't have to be tech-enabled or tech-only entrepreneurship. It could be a generic entrepreneurship, but if we can handhold them, we're trying to create a fund for them at country level, so that we can kind of give them seed money, not for equity, but as grants or as milestone achievement rewards, so that they stand on their own field and we impact entrepreneurship at the very, very low level. So that has been created. Multiple other membership benefits have been created. We have a great app for all charter members to network amongst themselves, have real-time update on what's happening across the globe virtually, attend events virtually. We're also partnering with many organizations and giving value to our members. So all these things have happened this year, and they will continue to happen. We have instilled first ever global entrepreneurial awards with 12 categories of awards, which will be announced at the Global Summit in a few days. We want to create and encourage people in the startup domain or in the entrepreneurial domain and create a world-class something to vie for kind of an award that has been launched this year. So multiple things have happened, and they will continue to happen, in my opinion. And we launched the TiE Women program last year, which was initiated, but it's far outreached what we thought it would. The finals will happen in Dubai next month. So I think multiple things have been touched upon, multiple things have been started. I think this will grow from strength to strength, and that's where TiE is. And I think we will continue to add new things, evolve, and take the entire ecosystem, the 360 degrees of the ecosystem, from student to successful entrepreneurs together and go forward.
Lovely. Wish you the very best for whatever you be doing. And what you said, give back to the society, handhold the underprivileged. It resonates with me deeply because I think we are living in a superbly exciting time. Today, we have the opportunity to correct the wrongs. The capitalism has created huge division, huge cracks in our society. 1% of the global elites owns 90% of the entire wealth. And I was having a conversation with Mr. Amitabh Behr. He's the CEO of Oxfam, an NGO, and he was mentioning that how 1% of the Indian elites owns 2 times the more money than the entire India's population. So I hope that these wrongs can be changed with the initiatives that you're doing, and we need to come together as a collective, because this is the chance, this is the opportunity for all of us, because I think the medium of internet, the medium of communication, the medium of technology is getting more and more accessible and democratized, and yes, it's creating a hyper world where everybody is connected and giving us the opportunity to create all of these beautiful things. So yes, you mentioned about generic entrepreneurship. Yes, obviously you don't really need to support just tech entrepreneurs. I see that because of COVID, I think everybody's become an entrepreneur, and those are the pros. But there is a certain cons with COVID. Now India's economy is 23.9% down. Micro, small, and medium businesses has been hurting terribly. Now government seems to have disbursed the Atmanirbhar stimulus package only and only to the big companies and the banking industry, and the banking industry in return is pushing loans to the already overburdened startups or the SMEs industry. How will this government policy and banking industry's absolutely regressive move to fuel the nation with debt impact MSMEs and our economy?
So, everyone's trying to play a role. And I think that 1% to 99% ratio and income or wealth is a very, very, obviously, is a very lopsided number, and especially for underdeveloped countries or developing countries like India. I think it's not the case in the US and Europe, etc. I think India has a long ways to go. I think everyone has to try and move in that direction. I think things will improve. It's better than before, but still it is miles to go. And I totally agree with that thought process that at least 30%, 25 to 30% people should have the wealth, because they deserve to. They've worked hard or they've had the opportunities. I think this 1% or whatever that percentage is minimally, is very, very low. And I think it's sad. So we're trying to work in that direction. I think strengthening and promoting entrepreneurship and strengthening them with non-equity based seed money is a way to do it. On the banking, on the government, on all that, you see, there are challenges, and I sit on both sides of the table. I am an entrepreneur. I represent organizations. I go and request and plead the governments, both state and central, to give us breaks on taxes, to give us low interest loans. But there are challenges that these government officials or government also has. I mean, government is such a huge machinery in India. I mean, the fiscal deficit, the fact that they don't have revenues, they had zero GST or almost zero GST coming in through the 3-4 months. They're trying to sell off assets in public limited companies to pay for infrastructure, and they can't, in defense and cross border encroachments and fear of wars that have been embedded into our society. I mean, governments have their own challenges. But whether they should have whether that stimulus package was a stimulus package or not, I agree with you. It could have been better. It did not impact much. It did help a very select few, not even that. It gave some moratorium on loans to people who had loans. Again, a very small percentage. That all kind of helped enterprises not to die. And initially, they pushed every entrepreneur to pay salaries, irrespective of what the status was, and not cut down on money. So I don't know what the solution is, but I mean, there are multiple solutions that try to come to my mind, whether giving debt at low interest rate is a solution or not a solution. Not giving that is also not a solution. So I personally feel that it's a very, very collective effort. I mean, I have suggested to the government or at a few platforms that what they should do is they should incentivize people. Let's say if I have 100 people working for me, they should incentivize for every additional person that I hire and give an incentive on Provident Fund and contribute that from their end. If I'm exporting or manufacturing or selling X amount, or if my income last year was, let's say, $10,000, if I have an incremental increase in income this year, I should get a break on that, so that I'm encouraged to, in India, the challenge is that people don't even divulge their income. People don't even pay full taxes. There's if the government could get full taxes also, I think the government would have more money to play with and give back to the poor. Though there are quite a few issues, farmer related, the Narega thing and other things that they do create, but I don't know how much of it is being trickling down to the lowest person at the last mile. I mean, I don't want to comment because they're sitting there, they have their challenges, but I feel it should be a collective effort. I think challenges in India, from population, from illiteracy, from social disparity, what we spoke about, to urbanization of late, and pollution and environment being impacted because of that. Politics of the worst nature, multi-party politics, where things don't get done because you're not in a state of majority despite best efforts. Corruption at all levels. I mean, multiple challenges that we have in India. So I'm not just trying to say that will all get corrected in a year or 2 or 10 years. It's a process. I mean, if I go back 30 years of my life from where it was to where I am, I feel India is much better. We have a better infrastructure. We are known across the globe in the tech domain. We are, a person who used to burn coal or wood at home for food has have a LPG. I mean, so we are. It's not that we're not moving in the right direction, but we have long way to go. And I'm just saying that if at this rate, things will not, reach much further, because technology is fast evolving, the world is fast shrinking, competition is increasing, and we will all see that if any country does not adapt quickly, the judiciary has to adapt. The corruption can only be eradicated if the judiciary was functional enough to punish the corrupt. I mean, it takes for years for them to get punished, and So I personally feel that we need to move on many fronts, but I have a role to play. Organizations have a role to play. Citizens have a role to play. Governments, of course, have a role to play, but one can't function or one can't deliver without the other supporting it. And I think it should be a national movement in India. And I think we have the right thought process in place. Execution, you and I, or other people might have different ways to do it. I guess you would do something that I could disagree with, and vice versa. Still, I would say if half or 60% gets done with the best of intentions, I'd be happy with it. I'm all I do is I don't criticize, I don't blame anyone. I play my role, and that's what TiE is for. TiE, we as entrepreneurs don't say reduce taxes or increase taxes or do this. We'll work under the umbrella of whatever is available. So if Indian infrastructure is poor, Indian infrastructure is not good, you will see people moving out of India. I mean, we know that the water will flow from a high level to a low level. If I'm not able to compete with China, I'll have to come up with alternate countries or alternate sources or an alternate business. Or, so all that is very, very clear. We need to work. The government has to see what direction the business is moving. If people are indeed taking their factories out, if indeed manufacturing is going out from India, they need to do something. But if Apple and Mercedes and BMWs and everyone else is coming into India manufacturing, then maybe the salaries need to go up. We need to have the right amount of taxes staying within the country, and these online, from Facebooks and Googles to have the revenue that everyone sources from within India because of the population that it has should stay in form of taxes here. So all these things government has to do. So, multiple things have to happen, but it will happen in my opinion. I'm not worried about how and when. I'm just doing my role to the hilt as an individual or as leading an organization.
Yeah, so yes, you correctly pointed out. I think we're living in a fantastic time. India is at the forefront of things. Because of various reasons, we sitting at the best point of time in Indian history. I mean, there is so much we can do, but there is so much wrongs which still needs to be corrected. And I hope that everybody comes together as a collective. For the first time, I think a per capita GDP has gone down lower than Bangladesh, Bhutan, Maldives, and so many others. Now, or even when it comes to COVID cases, I think we have the second largest case of people infected with COVID. Now, I hope that there's a complete turnaround, and then we do something, because there is so much happening. Some of the biggest tech behemoths in the world, Google, Microsoft, have Indian CEOs, right? There is so much which is happening. So tell me, what, according to you, should be done to revive the economy and the MSME sector? Do you see exponential technology or technology playing a role in reversing the impact of the pandemic?
Technology, of course, will have to play a role. I think people from offline will have to go to online. From having people manning processes, ERPs manning processes, and reduction, improving, and because we're going to go virtual or online, AR and VR, UI, UX, all of them have to play a very, very important role. We've never done data analytics. I think data analytics have to be taken into account. I think we've been very, very non-focused in our marketing or in outreach, and we send thousands of emails and bulk emails. I think it should be very, very focused. We should be very, very product focused, market focused, customer focused, and improvise and use India's strength, which is craft, hand, artisan, and add technology to it, and not just compete blindfold on price. While, for example, let's take apparel. Apparel is being made across all of Asia, and Bangladesh outbeats India any day because of costs. And India's point is it's pointless. So India has to now up its level on quality, maybe on hand block printing, maybe in some designing element that's handmade or hand done, or having something that's better. If India's strength is cotton, then use cotton and not use man-made fibers. So, I mean, we'll have to improvise from what works. And if if price is a factor, then I would have a factory in Bangladesh too, and import, and and then send from there. But my thing is that we will have to improvise and use our strengths, and technology definitely has to play a role. There's no doubts about it. I think travel will reduce. Exhibition space has reduced. We don't know when it's going to start. We need to reach out to the market. People are already doing that through their websites, which are becoming more and more interactive, more and more AR or VR enabled, more and more data analytics being and machine learning being applied to whatever the one is doing. So all these things have to be used, and I think every company, every SME, MSME would have to have a technology vertical working with them to give them precisely what is needed. If one does not have that, I think it's going to be a very tough competing with the world. I think the only thing is that while we are doing all that, worldwide pandemic, logistics, movement of containers, all those challenges are there despite everything. But I think that will get overcome in times to come. But I think technology has a very huge role to play when it comes to reviving the staggering industries, especially in the manufacturing world and at the micro or small level. And I think without applying technology on creating products or selling products or sourcing products, it will be a tough thing for India to survive.
Right, right. Yeah, so, yeah, but the entire reason for this podcast is to educate and raise awareness of the fourth industrial revolution. How that in the next 10 years, how all of these technologies, whether it's augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, synthetic biology, autonomous vehicle, clean energy, quantum computing, all of these, which was sounding sci-fi, or it's all becoming a reality right now. And all of these are actually maturing enough to, be there adding value for businesses. So I am super excited of this growth of exponential technology. Currently, the startup ecosystem is hurting badly because of the pandemic. Funding has slowed down. What is TiE doing to drive investment, boost investor confidence, and support the entrepreneur community?
The startup community, despite it not getting the funding that it needs, is not as bad. I think what initially 3 to 4 to 5 months, startups struggle to raise money. Startups that were at the bottom of the cycle in terms of their funds that they had for. So let's divide the startups into 3-4 different sectors. One is idea stage and early stage startups who have not raised money. So obviously they did not have the money. They had to wait for 4 or 5 months. And now they have pivoted to what is relevant even during COVID or post-COVID. And now they're starting to pitch. Things are normal to what they were. Startups that had raised money and did not have money at the time or were running out of money at the time of COVID, they've died. They obviously did not have the cash flow or the money to survive and pay their employees, and they're trying to achieve the growth that they were trying to achieve would not have been possible. So their numbers dwindled, and until there was a follow-on round from the investors, they obviously had to die. And especially if they were sectors not solving the problems during these COVID times or post-COVID times, they no one wanted to fund them. So their challenges are gone. Startups that had enough funds to tide over for 6 months to a year are surviving. They have pivoted. They have reduced costs. They have reduced overheads. They have reduced the targets. And also now when things are normal, trying to raise follow-on rounds and go to people. So their odds of survival, depending on the sector they are, can be anywhere from 20, 30% to 40, 50%. I mean, some of them will die because things have changed. My thought process as an investor have changed. Everyone else's has changed. And so some might find the funding, some might not find the funding. So that's about where we are at. But I think because startups are mostly tech enabled, mostly in the tech domain, their odds of surviving are better than any other traditional business who would, other than the food, housing, and apparel business, non-essential, the luxury goods, the gems and jewelry, the expensive stuff, or middle to expensive stuff because people are not buying non-essentials at all. So those might be struggling far more if they have higher overheads.
So, what would be your advice or tips to startups, entrepreneurs for surviving and thriving during the super uncertain, stressful times?
So very simple, cut down on your overheads quickly. Remove people that you don't need. If acquiring cost of acquiring your customer is very high and the payment cycle to recover that cost is long, I would not want to acquire customers. I would like to stabilize where I am and try and retain those customers and cut down my acquiring customers. I would continue to invest in R&D. I would continue to invest in tools and mediums which would strengthen the product or services that I am offering. I would invest in that. Number three, if my if there's any capex that has to be done, I would remove that. If I can't do without a certain whether R&D or acquiring customers or whatever that is, I would cut down on the salary still and offer them ESOPs at a later stage. I would retain my team that is good, which is critical to my business. So I would balance it in such a way that I don't let my business suffer because of cash flow situations. And I would continue to invest in something that will strengthen my business in the long term and try and reach from, go from the red to black so that you don't have a lot of burn and you can phase out the capital that you have or the money that you have over a period of a longer duration as the pandemic goes. So I would just quickly adjust. I'm hoping everyone has done what I'm just saying already. But if you haven't done that, I would do that and cut down to minimal of what is required. Focus on your income and overheads and R&D and whatever is needed. And if you don't have the money to pay, don't let good people go. Make sure that you offer them deferred salaries if ESOPs is not an option, or convertible notes at the next round of funding at at that level. Whatever works for you and works for your employees who are good, who are critical for your business's survival or growth, I wouldn't let them go.
So I've been invested in augmented reality, virtual reality since 2015. As I founded Immersion, which is India's first VR film festival, XRO News, digital news platform, the podcast, which is for specifically for AR, VR, MR, and then also have this platform called Change Transform India, where I've had the privilege of interviewing, leaders from India and around the world who are fronting exponential technologies like autonomous vehicles, quantum computing, clean energy, artificial intelligence, and things like that. But what I have noticed through my conversations with some of these leaders is that funding is super slow when it comes to AR, VR, MR, or future technologies. If you see globally, whether it's US or China, they are the ones who are doubling investments when it comes to augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, clean energy, autonomous vehicles, and things like that. It's assumed or predicted that this 10 years, the growth in exponential technology is going to be so super awesome that technology is going to almost overtake almost everything that we know. And it's going to create things which is like, I think almost all the big nations are vying for. And if they get any of those technologies, they will get an undue advantage. So that's the potential of these future technologies. But in India, it seems to be lacking, where the investor sentiment is lacking because of a risk-averse nature of investing in startups with a longer horizon of ROI. So what do you think should be done to drive investment in these frontier technologies or AR, VR, MR startups?
India might be slow. I mean, you're right. Indian manufacturers or product creators or product suppliers don't see value in AR and VR as much as the world sees it. But there are some good AR, VR companies that are providing great value. And in my craft business, they have reached out to me to create a website that is enabled with AR, VR experience. I think it's just a matter of time. What happens in India is that in India, things are slow, things are late to come in. But when they come like everyone wants it. So it's just a matter of time that consumers or end buyers, whether it's B2B or B2C, would love to have that, and maybe Amazons of the world or whatever, or other, live space, or other people in the furniture, or larger, I think I mean, in jewelry, for example, I've invested in a company which is a absolutely a you know VR kind of a sector, which is improving everything. There are people in the apparel who are doing that, unlike a trying room kind of an experience, they're giving you similar experience at home. So there are technologies that are being embedded. It's just not translated into people seeing value for them to invest more. And also, you will understand that on a scale, when something is not scalable, it's very expensive when it comes, because you don't have manpower to do what it's doing, and there's not enough competition. So you'll see it's a gradual thing, but in about a year, you will see AR, VR playing a very important role in e-commerce, both B2B, B2C, B2B2C, whatever it is. And I think that's something that will eventually go leaps and bounds, but it probably a year away from there. If you're in the right space at the right time, at the right price point, one will have a great potential in about a year or so.
The growth in technology, I think is going to create huge business opportunities, and yes, maybe in another couple of years, I mean, Indian investors will really be gung-ho about investing in AR, VR, and frontier technologies. So you have been an active advocate to bring about liberal policy environment for the startups in India and ease of doing business. How is India faring in that regard, and what measures are you taking to enable women entrepreneurship?
So, startup policy in India, I think it's far evolved. I think if I were to name countries with great startup policy, I think initially it was Ireland, Germany, Israel. Then I think Portugal came to the bandwagon, Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, now Canada, all are now becoming very, very active, and they're good policies. Japan also. India has came into the startup policy domain about 8 or 9 years ago with Kerala, the state leading on the startup policy many years ago, and then Government of India, and then all the other states coming into it. I think India has a great policy. I think India's startup policy with fund of funds and everything is in place. I mean, there's room for improvement, but I think we have a great policy in place. I think the Government of India is doing a lot of work in that ecosystem, but a lot needs to be done. And they're partnering with organizations like TiE, they're partnering with NASCOM, all tech organizations in India, to work with them to shortlist startups, to invest into startups, to co-invest into startups. They have been funding incubators, they've been funding accelerators, they've been working with colleges to have a strong incubation center. So the government has done its role when it comes to startup policy, creating the infrastructure around it. It's now investors who need to invest with the government or without the government, and handhold these startups to a next level. And then we have a very robust policy in place when it comes to PE or VC funding or pre-series A and series A. It's just this gap in between where government has created infrastructure of incubators and accelerators, and also has a policy in place with states giving them small grants to begin with. It's from then to a pre-series A level is where TiE sees a huge gap, and that's where our angel program is going to work in that specific thing. And that's the most vulnerable, or the least, the most high risk lifespan of a startup, and that's where we are trying to get into with our money and our funds, and that's the angel program that we're launching. So that if we are able to do that along with other organizations, I think we should be good. In Indian startup policy will continue to evolve as we give suggestions and things improvise or improve, and we find challenges at that level or whatever other level. So that's the on the Indian startup policy and where I see it. So India is amongst the top 10 countries across the world when it comes to government's intervention and startup policy and inclusiveness, or infrastructure and laws in place. And there are countries that are better than us, of course, and we need to improve, and we will improve. So that's on the agenda of TiE, and we are trying to work with the government, both here and in the US, to try and improve the policy so that it's par with other countries, and we don't lose startups to a country like Canada, which has I think, the best policy for immigration for startups to go into. So we don't want to do that, which is okay. Which is, Canada has its own needs and India has its own needs, and we don't have an issue, but we should have similar policy in place. So that's on the startup policy. I think women entrepreneurship has been very, very critical for TiE over the last 4 years. I mean, we had an Air Sweep program which ran for 3 years. We started the TiE Women program last year. We see a huge gap there. Not only there are myths surrounding the fact that women cannot be techpreneurs. There are myths surrounding the fact that they cannot handle pressures of a startup thing. There are myths standing around the fact that they can be co-founders, but they need to have male co-founders. There's a family burden or getting married kind of a burden psychologically on there. I don't think that is a challenge. So all these things in our mind are big challenges, and we are going to work our way into it. Our launch of TiE Women program last November, we had 2,000 plus women entrepreneurs on the program. Every chapter, I think 27 chapters across the globe, mentored all of them. So you're talking about 100 or 80 or 90 startups at each chapter being mentored on an average. We then every chapter reached out and had top 4 competition going from phases from one mentor to the other. The top 4 then competed with each other, and we have like 27 finalists from across the globe, and we have 81 second, third, and fourth runners up. So we have a boot camp happening next week in Jaipur for the runners up. We have a boot camp happening in Mumbai for the winners, and then we go to Dubai, where we give a prize money of 125K US dollars. No equity, just prize money to the first, second, and third space out of the 27. So what we are trying to do through a social media campaign, through outreach programs, through supporting these women entrepreneurs, is trying to get a message out to the world that this is not a domain that's just a domain for men only or technology-based entrepreneurs only. And I tell women that or wherever I go and mentor, that there's no difference between one or the other. When I'm looking at a pitch coming from a male or a female co-founder, it's absolutely the same. Them being on the board, them being there trying to raise money is equally encouraging, and that's the kind of model. And they should break the shackles and go into deep tech, AI, ML, blockchain. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think education is an issue. I see girls excelling in school level. It's only when they go to engineering colleges, I don't know, for some reason, there is a psychological barrier in their mind or their parents' mind or society's mind, which has to be broken. And I think that and so from this year, from 2000, we intend to go 10,000 plus this coming year and go on from there. And we are going to actually ensure that women are equally represented in all our events, all our functions, all our boards, all our meetings and committees, and that's where we are.
Lovely, super. Well, we need to create an inclusive and diverse world, and there is obviously, like you pointed out, there's a barrier in society's mind. Everybody is equal, and with the help of internet, I think anybody sitting in any part of the world, whether it's a male, female, whether it's from an urban area, rural area, we can be enabled if we have the desire and intent to learn more, understand more. Today, education is almost completely available free online with MOOCs, massive open online courses and podcasts and so on and so forth. Thank you for doing whatever you're doing. You are also an angel investor with Rajasthan Angel Innovator Network. So could you talk a little bit about that? And as an angel investor, what are the boxes or pointers if ticked is a sure shot attention grabber for you?
So not only Rajasthan Angels, also there's a program called TiE India Angels, which TiE's national program called TiE India Angels, TIA, and I'm chairing that and leading that initiative also. So angel investment is pretty close to my heart, and especially idea stage and early stage investment. I think what ticks my box is first the team, a cohesive, enabled, strong, well-rounded off team of founders. That's number one. Of course, the idea. the idea should make sense to not only the team, but whoever the participants are, whether it's the buyers or the suppliers, users, or manufacturers or consumers, whatever it is. It should be a win-win for everyone. Number three, the time should be right. It doesn't, you can't be, it doesn't matter if you are all alone or not, but um, it should be the need of the market. I mean, if the times have moved on from Uber and Ola, then you need to move from Uber and Ola and do something else. So that's something that should make sense at that point of that day. Fourthly, I think technology has a very, very important role to play. So while you might be solving a vertical problem to whatever you have, and you must be disrupting it through pricing or marketing or innovative product, unless you enable it with great technologies like AR, VR, a good UI UX for the person who's on your website or your app, a good algorithms with ML and AI in place. If all of these things are not embedded in where you are, your 100x growth will not be possible, because it's a generic business at that point. So it should check that element also, and not just use of those words that we are enabled. It should actually be enabled, and it should actually show results. And those are the few tick boxes that I would prefer. Otherwise, I'm agnostic to the sector. If it's social impact, if it's rural, if it's agri, I prefer that over e-commerce, because e-commerce is too crowded, too competitive. Cost of customer acquisition and retention is very, very difficult, very high. So I prefer low compete sectors in comparison to high compete sectors. So fintech, unless something is new, is crowded, from UPIs to whatnot. So I personally feel that because it's early stage, idea stage, you should be looking at things differently, or looking at different things differently, and that's what excites me, and that's what ticks my boxes actually.
Lovely. One last question: what comes next for you? What comes next for TiE? And what are you most excited for startups, entrepreneurship community in the next 3 to 5 years for India?
For me, of course, angel investment is very, very close and critical. I would continue to do that. I would, after a network, I would be launching a fund. I want to actually do multi-tiered cross investments as an individual, as a fund, continue to invest into India and outside of India. From TiE's point of view, I think TiE, with all these initiatives and programs, is becoming stronger and stronger. I see TiE spreading out to more geographies. I see TiE partnering with governments across the globe to make cross-border investments easier. There are still challenges for Indians to invest outside of India, or small ticket size items, small ticket investments to come to India because of valuation issues, and especially in the early stage, idea stage, and non-listed startups. I think government policies should become easy for cross-border, and I think TiE would work with governments in trying to change that. I also feel that TiE's robust platform and ideologies will continue to work at the bottom of the pyramid, idea stage, early stage, students, underprivileged, taking women to a level. So next 3 to 5 years, I hope to see a lot of representation. The fact that we are thinking of the underprivileged or women should not be there. That question should not come in an interview, because that ceases to be a problem. So I see all of that enabled and future ready for TiE. So that's 3 to 5 years. There's no doubt about the fact that the world will shrink further. There will be devices that you and I will wear, which will have everything that you need from AR, VR, mobile, video, everything on there, whether it's in my hand, whether it's on my eyes, whether it's in my head. You will see devices shrinking, devices on our body, hands-free, all payments seamless, all accumulated into one simple mode through that device. And I think devices will be, whether it's in my ears, devices and IoT combined with all these needs that we all have as humans into a device somewhere on our body. That's where I see technology. The world obviously will shrink. I see having digital passports. I see having seamless travel. I see, countries, economies, and cross border currencies shrinking or coming at par. I think physical currency will cease to exist. Transportation will be, well, I wouldn't go the Elon Musk way, but still transportation would be much easier, much faster, much quicker. And all these I see in the street. I mean, technology will just, the rate of growth of technology in the next 3 to 5 years will be phenomenal, in my opinion. And I think we're all getting ready to have that. I mean, I hope environment will get improved. The climate accords will be strengthened with EV, with less commuting, work from home, responsible behavior on behalf of corporates and the so-called 1% rich across the globe, and governments across, and not bowing down to the electorate to have votes and have industries that are polluting still go on because there's large mass doing that. So I think technology will be a role player and a model player looking at the future of everything.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to talk to you. You painted a beautiful picture of what's coming in the next 5 or 10 years in such a small couple of sentences, but you painted it so eloquently, about how everything, the technologies are going to get miniaturized, how it's going to be on a body, how it's going to open up huge business opportunities. Now it's depends on us, the entrepreneurs, the change makers, the investors, the governments, and everybody to come together, correct all the wrongs which has been there, and go from the present of scarcity to the future of abundance. In that note, and I hope really that happened. That notes to all my listeners, if you like what you see in here, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. The one. Thank you. Really appreciate this. Yeah. Thank you.